Open study session.
Mayor, thank you very much. Hafer Welker Architects are the architectural firm engaged to build the police station, design and build the police station. With us tonight is a rock star of a person, Catherine Waldrop from Hafer Welker, to talk about lighting of City Hall and the police station.
All right.
Well, thank you. That was an awfully nice introduction. Mayor, council members, I'm here to give you a little update about the fresh new look. If you can see out the back, I'm going to point right at you. I'm so sorry, but right behind her is this bright red light. What that is a mock-up of the lighting scheme that will go up on all of the fins all the way across. It will be uniformly distributed, the whole fin. Color changing so that you can change the color depending on, you know, if we won the Super Bowl or not that year, right? We're still working on the details of exactly how it will get installed on the building, but we just want to give you an update that is what that red light is, and so when you see it, that's what's coming your way. So we're working on that with Turner Construction on as part of the overall construction and facelift on the City Hall entrance. Any questions?
Any questions? No. Please, Mayor Pro Tem.
I do. So if it's not a color,
it can be white.
Is it just white?
Yes, yes. I would assume a majority of the time it can be white. And then depending on, like I said, if there's something that you want to celebrate or commemorate, that would give you an opportunity to change those colors.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the colors. You know, we've seen it all over town. We see it at Union Station. We see it all over downtown. We've never been able to figure out what to do with
those fins.
With the fins. I'm glad that we're going to keep them and try to accent with them and maintain our atomic blast protection.
You got it. You got
from
it.
them. So.
And we're not taking away from that. So
that's right.
Still
no.
be protected. Yes.
Unless they hit north of town.
Well.
Then we're. But no, I love the idea, and we'll come up with something every month to use to light it up for.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks so much.
Catherine. Mayor, the second item is a license plate reader trial period update. Chief Ferris will do that presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm going to give you just a quick overview of we've kind of ended the 60-day trial period for the Flock license plate reader system I spoke to you all about. This is going back almost a year. It took us a while to get everything lined up and installed, and we had some hurdles on getting the cameras up. So after a year, we finally got them up and got our trial period going, and I just want to kind of walk you through some of the success we've had with it. What our vision is with these license plate readers is to use that technology to make our community safer by working smarter, not harder. They become a force multiplier because we end up having essentially the ability to capture crime, capture images, things like that all over the city when we can't always have officers there. Currently we have 12 cameras spread out around the city. That was more for the trial period to see where we thought we'd get the most bang for the buck. And then we're going to kind of reevaluate where we want the cameras if we decide to move further with this. We've had license plate reader technology for several years at least, but that technology's changed over time. Initially, the ones that we have were vehicle mounted, and you had to purchase the equipment. So each one of those cameras was about $30,000 to put on a car, and you essentially got it on one car. Now, it could broadcast to the other vehicles if it happened to drive past something, but we owned the equipment, and with that came the associated costs of end of life, maintenance, things not working, and we had to absorb all that. With this model, it's a subscription-based model, if you recall, where we're essentially just renting the equipment. They put up the equipment, they maintain it. They're solar powered, so we don't have to worry about tapping anybody's power supply or anything like that. But we don't incur those costs of having to maintain that equipment, and for what it would cost to buy one car, we would be able to put up 12 of them around the city. Kind of what they look like, I'm sure you've seen some of them, may or may not have seen them. I've actually had to look hard to see what they look like, because I've driven by some of them and had to go back and try to figure it out. It's essentially a very innocuous little solar panel with what looks like a very small camera attached to it. For the ones that we're using, the majority of them ended up being a standalone pole like you see on that third image. because of some issues that we had with Evergy and not having access to their poles. So Flock came in and installed their own poles, and even those I've had trouble just finding them. They just kind of blend in with the environment. Some of the things that we've looked at, obviously crime is on the rise. We do have limited police resources. The Northland's very often victimized by metro-wide crime. People are stealing cars in Johnson County and KCK and KCMO, and then they're coming up north to do other crimes, because it always seems to be like stolen car plus, stolen car plus guns, stolen car plus robberies, things like that. And we need that public trust. So with something like this, where it's all artificial intelligence based, we don't have officers that can be accused of profiling or bias-based policing. The camera's doing the work, and it's broadcasting information, and we just go look for it. So the opportunity, like I said before, it becomes a force multiplier, captures and distributes objective evidence to the right users. So right now, it's set up, it's all web-based. So as those hits come in, they show up on the web platform, and any of our officers or dispatch or that are logged into the system, they get alerts either on their desktop. I get them on my phone, text message, email. So we get these immediate responses, and then officers begin looking for them. We'll have a direction of travel. It snaps a picture of what the car looks like, et cetera. Engaging community to support and grow the system. We've had really good luck with that as we started to tell some of the business owners in the community, a couple of the HOAs that asked about it, Northland neighbors asked about it, because apparently they've funded some LPR systems for Kansas City. There is a there is a big interest in partnering and providing cameras in specific locations that would tie into our network that are paid for by Home Depot, Walmart, Hy-Vee, things like that. So I've had some really good meetings and conversations with some of those bigger businesses, and there's definitely an interest in them coming on board and helping to fund certain cameras. Gives us the maximum use of resource dollars with subscription model as opposed to buying the equipment, like I said before. How does it prevent and eliminate crime? In a proactive way, it's real-time alerts, so we can start going out and looking for those vehicles as soon as they hit on a camera. And from an investigative standpoint, this system is much different than the previous system in that we can search for make, model, and color of car. So even if we don't have a license plate, we can search the system for, say, a silver Nissan Sentra, and pull up the silver Nissan Sentras that have hit in a certain time frame. And we've had really good success with that already, identifying some significant crime suspect vehicles that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So it is a little bit more intuitive, and we do have the ability to use it more investigatively, not just proactively. And then once word gets out that us and other jurisdictions are going to it, it does act as a deterrent, because people know that technology is out there. They're going to hopefully avoid those areas if they're committing crimes. Very widely adopted in Missouri. You can see already some, and this list has grown since we put this together. I know for a fact that Clay County Sheriff's Department is going to add 10 throughout the county. Liberty, Riverside, Kearney, and Excelsior have all already been in contact with Flock to add some cameras into their systems. So it's pretty widely used in Missouri. It is a St. Louis-based company, so very leaning heavy initially on the east side of the state. But as we got word out that we were trying it, all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from all these other local agencies around here wanting to see it, coming up and looking at what we were doing, and now all of a sudden other agencies are kind of jumping on board as well. So I'm kind of happy about that. Some of the data that we got, just to give you an idea. So we did a 60-day period. The hits that came out of those 12 cameras during that December 1st to February 8th is when we pulled the data from. 5 gang-related license plate hits, 2 missing persons, protection orders 57, sex offenders 117, 108 stolen plates, 98 stolen cars, and active warrants. In just the 60 days that we've had it up, we've had over 30 felony arrests that were directly related as a result to that Flock system. So our officers are getting out and finding the cars when the alerts come out, or they're out patrolling and the alert comes out, they get notification. Dispatch is also putting out an audio notifications so that they can be paying attention to what they're looking for while they're driving, and we're making these arrests. Give you an idea of just some of the things that we've had. When I talked about the ability to search the make, model, and color, we had a vehicle that drove by a residence in the middle of December and shot a bunch of rounds off in the direction of the house. All we had was the make, model, and color. Nobody had a tag. Nobody knew who it was. Dispatch was able to get on and search that make, model, and color, identified a vehicle that was fleeing the scene in the general area within 10 minutes of the shooting, and we identified our suspect based on that, because now we actually have a tag once we find the car in the system. We were working a child sex offense, had the suspect that was pretty much ghosting us. We couldn't get him to come in for an interview, really avoiding us or being hidden, one or the other. We have the ability to enter a tag into Flock, which we did, so we put that in, and the next day it hit on that tag as he was pulling into one of the businesses, and he was arrested at the scene, when that could have gone on for months, us playing cat and mouse with him. Stolen car, driver arrested, stolen auto hit. We've had a couple of these where somebody has their car stolen, they get it back, they report it recovered, and agencies forget to take that out of the system. So they're still driving around in a car that says it's stolen. And in both of those instances, one was an elderly gentleman. He was very appreciative that we didn't drag him out of his car, but we were able to direct him towards getting his vehicle removed from the system. Stolen auto found unoccupied in front of a problem address. When the officers started looking for the car, they found it, and ended up having a felon in possession of drugs, guns, and currency, and the county drug task force is actually working that now. Vehicle that fled, crashed shortly after that. Suspect was captured and a gun was recovered. Had one guy here just earlier this month that legitimately, he traded his car on Facebook Marketplace to this guy for another car, not knowing that he was trading a stolen car. It all seemed to be a legitimate transaction, probably not the wisest, but still legitimate, and we were able to clear that for him. Had one that same night where it hit on a car right up here at 72nd North Oak, and then hit on one of the cameras over east, and the sergeant on duty started just kind of trying to figure out where it would be going, and sat up and waited for it, and it came back through here. It turns out that guy had dropped off a missing juvenile that had actually stolen the car and dropped her off at Walmart, and they were in the process of stealing a bunch of merchandise up there, and he was just out driving around waiting for them to get done, and we were able to get the missing girl back to her parents. A couple more stolen cars. Probably one of our biggest ones, we had a stolen car that pulled into the Walmart. Turned out it was 4 members of the Latin Kings criminal street gang from Chicago. They're tied to a very large auto theft ring that I know the FBI has been working for at least 5 years, because I was involved in it previously. Guns, drugs, convicted felons. That case has been adopted by the FBI, and they're working that with Illinois officials. And that just gives you an idea of some of the really good cases that we've made off of this, and thought I'd entertain any questions you might have.
Any comments, questions?
I do.
Please.
So Chief, would we still, if we decide that we're going forth with this, would we still go with the 12 cameras?
That's my plan. I mean, budgetarily, I've been able to identify the money from some existing technology that we don't currently use that was still in the budget, so I'm just going to reprogram that. It gets us the 12 cameras, and then hopefully, after we get those up and running, we can start entertaining some of these other options for some of the businesses or HOAs to jump on board and maybe fund additional ones, would be my goal.
And so we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000?
Yeah, currently they're $2,500 per camera per year. They're getting ready to do a price hike, but they're going to allow us to lock in our pricing for however many years we want to commit to it and lock that price in, and that's what I'm hoping to do, so we don't have to worry about having a big jump here in 6 months.
These stats are remarkable. Are really amazing. So thank you for bringing this to the department.
Yeah, I'm also amazed at the numbers. I would be less excited about this if all it did is identify hits that were in the system already, active warrants or something like that. But the fact that you are able to use it for investigation purposes or to track down a car or license plate that your department is investigating, I think is beyond the tipping point for making this worthwhile, so.
Yeah, we had a lady that dropped off a carload of puppies in the middle of the night, like 3 o'clock in the morning, at one of the animal shelters, under the cover of darkness, and their surveillance camera caught the vehicle, but couldn't read the license plate. And within 10 minutes, we were able to find the car and the license plate and get her charged, so.
Any other comments? Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Mayor, just as a follow-up, I'd anticipate that the contract award is on your next city council agenda. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. We have a few minutes before our regular meeting starts at 7:30, so we'll take a few minutes break and start at 7:30. and we have a quorum. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Mr. Mayor, the colors are present. Both colors. Present arms. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
order arms.
Thank you. You may be seated. As always, we'd like to recognize the honor guard from VFW Post 10906, Carla Gleaton and Gordon Harris. Thank you. We'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda. We have approval of an updated agenda for tonight's meeting. The updated agenda includes 5 ordinances and a resolution for our consideration. Does anyone have any changes for tonight's agenda? Hearing none, the updated agenda is approved. Item number 5, approval of the minutes from the February 13th, 2023 closed City Council meeting.
Mayor Garnis,
Councilman Mallon.
I move to approve the minutes from the February 13th, 2023 closed City Council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the February 13th, 2023 closed City Council meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are hereby approved. Next item is approval of the minutes from the February 13th, 2023 regular City Council meeting.
Mayor Garnis,
Councilman Mallon.
I move to approve the minutes from the February 13th, 2023 regular City Council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor of approving the February 13th, 2023 regular City Council meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are hereby approved. Item 7, communications from the audience. Is there any member of the audience that would like to address City Council on a matter that is not on this evening's agenda? There you go. Any members? Mr. Oldebecken.
Good evening, Mayor Garnos and City Council members. My name is Jim Oldebecken. I live on 76 Terrace. Our citizens are indebted to you for leading our city government and your many hours that duty requires of you and your families. We have an election coming April 4th, just 5 weeks away, when we will elect or re-elect 2 seats on the Gladstone City Council. Over the past 10 years, according to the Clay County Board of Election Commissioners, our voter turnout has averaged only 7% for city elections. But we've already seen an uptick with voting rates in 2022 reaching 10%. But we can do better. Toward this end, the Gladstone Citizen, a hyperlocal news source now reporting from a Facebook page by that name, will be publishing a voter guide that devotes a full page to each of our 5 candidates based on their answers to the survey questions. Also, we will be holding for the first time a City Council Candidate Forum on Thursday, March 23rd from 6:30 till 8 p.m. at the Gladstone Community Center. This will be the public's opportunity to see and hear from each of the 5 candidates as they answer questions about their candidacy, qualifications, and ideas for furthering our city's goals. There is something very unique about the Candidate Forum, as it will be fully led by students representing, or specifically, members of Oak Park High School's Government Club that is sponsored by instructors Brian Ettinger and Sean DeRose. I hope many here today will make plans to attend the Candidate Forum on March 23rd and to help us get the word out in advance. Just think, if we can boost voter turnout by only 4% a year consecutively in 2026, we will have reached 26%. Imagine how exciting that will be. May I respond to any questions?
Questions, comments? Thank you, Jim, for everything you've been doing to educate our voters and encourage them to vote. Any other communications on an item not on this evening's agenda? If not, we'll move to communications from City Council. Councilman Smith.
I have nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Spallo.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Uh-oh. Councilman Mallows.
No comments this evening, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to the individuals who live and work around in the Inglewood and Broadway area. I know that they've gone through a lot of stress and inconvenience due to the water main break, and certainly not anything that we wanted to have happen. So kudos to our Public Works Department and to all the citizens who've been inconvenienced, and thank you for your patience and understanding. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for those comments. Also wanted to thank Mayor Pro Tem Moore for covering for me at the Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting last week. We had a good meeting with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board last week. Jason Sharpstein was elected to serve as chairman for this next year, and Scott Hanover will serve as vice chairman. We were also briefed on plans for events this year at Atkins Johnson Farm and Museum and for the summer programming for Linden Square. It's very exciting, and I know council will be briefed on it at one of our upcoming meetings. So we have an exciting summer ahead of us for the city. Finally, I wanted to recognize the passing of Kansas City Police Department K-9 Officer James Muehlbauer. Last week, Officer Muehlbauer became the second police officer who was killed in the line of duty in the past 8 months, who will rest in peace at Whitechapel Cemetery here in Gladstone. This is a sad and solemn responsibility for our community, and I want to thank all our police officers who attended the funeral and escort and helped with the funeral procession. We'll move on. Item 9, communications from City Manager, Mr. Wingerson.
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick things. First is, in order to vote, as Mr. Oldebeck just encouraged the public to participate in, you have to register to vote. The last day to do that for the upcoming April election is March 8th. You can do that here at City Hall, you can do that at the Mid-Continent Public Libraries, and you can do that at the local DMV. So hopefully people can take advantage of those opportunities. And then I'd like to pause and thank you and members of the staff and the public for their patience as we relocated council meetings for a couple of meetings here. Hopefully it appeared mostly seamless to you as elected officials and to the public, but there's a lot of things that go into that. So there's a Parks Department who coordinates the facility itself, and then there's a city clerk and deputy city clerk who move mountains to make those things happen. So thanks to everybody who helped do that. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10 is the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please explain and read the consent agenda?
A consent agenda allows the City Council to consider and approve routine items of business without discussion. Any member of the City Council, the city staff, or the public may request removal of any item from the consent agenda and request that it be considered under the regular agenda if discussion or debate of the item is desired. Items not removed from the consent agenda will stand approved upon motion by any council member, second unanimous vote to approve the consent agenda as published or modified. Consent agenda, special event permit, flashlight Easter egg hunt, Happy Rock Park Sports Complex, Friday, March 31st, 2023, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Rain date is Saturday, April 1st, 2023, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Special event permit, Touch a Truck, Happy Rock Park West, Saturday, May 6, 2023, 10 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. Special event permit, Theater in the Park, Oak Grove Park, Friday, June 30th, 2023 through Sunday, July 2nd, 2023, and Friday, August 4th, 2023 through Sunday, August 6th, 2023, 5 o'clock to 11:30 p.m. Special event permit, Independence Day celebration, Oak Grove Park, Tuesday, July 4th, 2023, 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m. Special event permit, Friday Fright Night, Happy Rock Park East, Friday, October 20th, 2023, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Resolution R-23-04, a resolution amending or revising the 2023 General Fund, Community Center and Park Sales Tax Fund, Public Safety Sales Tax Fund, Capital Improvement Sales Tax Fund, Capital Equipment Replacement Fund, Combined Waterworks and Sewer System Fund, and Parks and Playground Fund for the City of Gladstone, Missouri, and authorizing expenditures of funds. Resolution R-23-05, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Insco Industries Incorporated in the total amount not to exceed $79,365 for the Gladstone Municipal Pool Painting Project, CC 2353. Consider financial report for 7 months ending January 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Does any member of the audience request the removal of any item from the consent agenda for discussion? City Council? Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Is there a
Mayor
motion? Councilman Smith?
Move we approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as listed. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as listed, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We'll move on with our regular agenda. Item 11 is the first reading of Bill Number 23-05, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of agreement between the City of Gladstone and the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, to update stormwater engineering standards and planning guidelines.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallett.
I move to place Bill number 23-05 on its first reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to place Bill Number 23-05 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of placing Bill Number 23-05 on its first reading, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading Bill Number 23-05, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of agreement between the City of Gladstone and the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, to update stormwater engineering standards and planning guidelines.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallett.
I move to accept the first reading of Bill number 23-05, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill Number 23-05, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of placing Bill Number 23-05 on its second and final reading, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading Bill Number 23-05, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of agreement between the City of Gladstone and the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, to update stormwater engineering standards and planning guidelines.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mellons.
I move to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 23-05 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.627.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill Number 23-05 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.627. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
Aye.
Councilman Mallon?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnis.
Aye. Bill Number 23-05 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.627. Move on to item 12, the first reading of Bill Number 23-06, an ordinance amending Title IX, Building and Construction Ordinance of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, Code of Ordinances by repealing certain provisions contained therein and enacting in lieu thereof new provisions designated as Title IX, Building and Construction Ordinance relating to the erosion and sediment control and post-construction stormwater regulations for the City of Gladstone, Missouri. And you didn't think we had any fun.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to place Bill Number 23-06 on its first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to place Bill Number 23-06 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing Bill Number 23-06 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading Bill Number 23-06, an ordinance amending Title IX Building and Construction Ordinance of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, Code of Ordinances by repealing certain provisions contained therein and enacting in lieu thereof new provisions designated as Title IX Building and Construction Ordinance relating to the erosion and sediment control and post-construction stormwater regulations for the City of Gladstone, Missouri.
Mayor.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to accept the first reading of Bill Number 23-06, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill number 23-06, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing Bill number 23-06 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading, Bill number 23-06, an ordinance amending Title IX Building and Construction Ordinance of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, Code of Ordinances by repealing certain provisions contained therein and enacting in lieu thereof new provisions designated as Title IX Building and Construction Ordinance relating to the erosion and sediment control and post-construction stormwater regulations for the City of Gladstone, Missouri.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 23-06 and enact it as ordinance number 4.628.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 23-06 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.628. Is there any discussion? Other than to thank Alan Napoli for this.
And Mr. Nevergall.
And Mr. Nevergall. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
Aye.
Councilman Mallum?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnis.
Aye. Bill number 23-06 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.628. We will move on to item 13. I'm assuming everybody was here for the stormwater regulations, but we'll move on to the first reading of Bill number 23-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 105, Animal Regulations in Title II, Public Health, Safety, Welfare in the Gladstone City Code relating to domesticated fowl and bees. Mr. Greer, would you explain where we're at and how we got here?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. City staff held at the last Planning Commission an open study with those Planning Commissioners to try and hone in on what the number of domesticated fowl would be allowable for under 3 acres. There was a lot of conversation that went back and forth. Some of the Planning Commissioners agreed with staff for 6 and 12. But ultimately, Planning Commissioners voted for 15 domesticated fowl, very similar to Kansas City. The vote on that was 6-3. Taking all that into consideration, City staff thought that there was a compromise to be had, and that is reflected in your ordinance tonight. In the ordinance tonight, we would wrote in there actually to allow for 10 domesticated fowl, and then for 15 with a medical exemption. So that's kind of where we stand as of tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Greer? If not, we'll proceed with the first reading of Bill number 23-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 105, Animal Regulations in Title II, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare in the Gladstone City Code relating to domesticated fowl and bees.
Mayor Garnis.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Spallo.
No, it was
Me. Go ahead with it.
Councilman
Okay.
Mallum.
I move to place Bill number 23-07 on its first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to place Bill number 23-07 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of placing Bill number 23-07 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading, Bill number 23-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 105, Animal Regulations in Title II, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare in the Gladstone City Code relating to domesticated fowl and bees.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallum.
I move to accept the first reading of Bill number 23-07, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill number 23-07, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing Bill number 23-07 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading, Bill number 23-07, an ordinance amending Chapter 105, Animal Regulations in Title II, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare in the Gladstone City Code relating to domesticated fowl and bees.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallum.
I move to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 23-07 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.629.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 23-07 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.629. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Garnis.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
I've as the council representative on the planning commission and obviously in this body as well, I've been, in every discussion, been listening to every discussion that we've had on, fowl and bees. And I just want to say thank you to all of those residents who have been so dedicated to being here and listening and giving their advice and counsel and their input, because that's how things work in this city. And we really, really do appreciate everybody's input. Hopefully, we've come a long way from 6 through 10 through where we are today. So my hope is that the residents feel like we've listened to them and that this is a good compromise position for this ordinance.
Thank you. Any other comments? If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spello?
Aye.
Councilman Mallon?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnis.
Aye. Bill number 23-07 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.629. I think we're going to wait until the other business at the end of the evening to show the pictures of the chicken and the outfits that my mother knitted for them, since I told you that was a thing. So when we're done with business, I'll show the photos.
Hey, thanks.
Item 14, first reading of bill number 23-08. Mr. Williams, will you explain what we're looking at here in this bill?
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor. This won't be as exciting as the
Chicken pictures.
Basically, the ordinance in front of you is a housekeeping item. Missouri Sunshine Law provides by state statute that certain meetings, records, and votes may be closed to the public. City code also includes similar provisions, but over time, the Missouri General Assembly has amended the Sunshine Law in order to ensure that our code is consistent with the state law, and in fact, that it mirrors the state law. We prepared the ordinance in front of you this evening, so basically the purpose is to make sure our code matches state law. And there is virtually cut and pasted from the state law, so it does match.
Thank you. So we'll proceed then with the first reading of bill number 23-08, an ordinance amending section 1.115.020 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, pertaining to closed meetings and closed records in accordance with the Open Meetings and Records Law in Chapter 610 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri.
Mayor Garnis.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
I move to place bill number 23-08 on its first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to place bill number 23-08 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of placing bill number 23-08 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading bill number 23-08, an ordinance amending section 1.115.020 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, pertaining to closed meetings and closed records in accordance with the Open Meetings and Records Law in Chapter 610 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri.
Mayor Garnis.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
I move to accept the first reading of bill number 23-08, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 23-08, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing bill number 23-08 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading bill number 23-08, an ordinance amending section 1.115.020 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, pertaining to closed meetings and closed records in accordance with the Open Meetings and Records Law in Chapter 610 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri.
Mayor Garnis.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
I move to accept the second reading of bill number 23-08 and enact it as ordinance 4.630.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 23-08 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.630. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
Aye.
Councilman Mallon?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnis.
Aye. Bill number 23-08 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.630. We'll move on with the first reading of Bill number 23-09. Mr. Mullane, are you going to explain what we're cleaning up in this one?
Sure. Mayor and Council, as we previously discussed, Amendment 3 was passed by voters of Missouri back in November, and very generally, Amendment 3 legalizes the adult use of marijuana. Before you is an updated version of the draft offenses amendment that I presented to you at our past meeting where I presented on this. And this ordinance will amend the code to track with the new provisions of the Missouri Constitution. As you recall, in my presentation, the constitutional amendment includes very specific provisions on use and local control, so I crafted this to track explicitly with that as well. That's what's before you tonight.
Great, thank you. First reading of Bill number 23-09, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Gladstone, Missouri, Title III, Offenses, Chapter 130, Offenses against Public Peace and Safety by amending certain sections and adding certain sections to conform with Article 14 of the Missouri Constitution.
Mayor Garnos.
Councilman Smith.
We place bill number 23-09 on its first reading.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to place bill number 23-09 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing bill number 23-09 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading, bill number 23-09, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Gladstone, Missouri, Title III Offenses, Chapter 130, Offenses against Public Peace and Safety by amending certain sections and adding certain sections to conform with Article 14 of the Missouri Constitution.
Mayor Garnos.
Councilman Smith.
We accept the first reading bill number 23-09, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 23-09, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing bill number 23-09 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill again.
Second reading, bill number 23-09, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Gladstone, Missouri, Title III Offenses, Chapter 130, Offenses against Public Peace and Safety by amending certain sections and adding certain sections to conform with Article 14 of the Missouri Constitution.
Mayor Garnos.
Councilman Smith.
Move accept second reading of bill number 23-09 and act as ordinance number 4.631.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 23-09 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.631. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
Aye.
Councilman Mellams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnis.
Aye. Bill number 23-09 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.631. Item 16 is in the updated agenda, Resolution R-23-06, a resolution ratifying a time and materials contract with Kissick Construction Company in the total amount not to exceed $500,000 for the emergency repair and replacement of the 20-inch transmission main at North Broadway and Northwest Englewood Road, Project WP 2391.
Mayor Garnos.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to approve Resolution R-23-06.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution R-23-06. Is there any discussion? Nothing? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting Resolution R-23-06 signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Resolution is hereby adopted. Item 17, other business. Time for chicken pictures. Mr. Greer?
Thanks for
As I
letting me have the
mentioned
honor
during
of
our
doing this.
first hearing on chickens, I have a nephew that raises chickens. We had testimony about how these are more than just animals and eggs, that these are actually pets. So I wanted you to know that my mother had knitted hats and scarves and a small dress for the chickens so they wouldn't get cold. Here is my nephew holding one of his chickens. It's inside of a pen that's inside of a coop, but then the chickens can roam around in the yard when the dog's not there, which is one of the issues that we had been talking about. So in the interest of full disclosure, I wanted you to see my mother's knitting skills for chicken outfits.
Perhaps we
Is there
should-
any other business for city council this evening?
How could we top that?
If not, we will reconvene for our next regular meeting in 2 weeks on March 13th. We are adjourned.
We should have adopted